Teslafaninsight. Today is our 3-day rule podcast based on Tesla's earnings last Thursday. We're not sponsored, but there's a company called Good Foods that has an awesome product, organic avocado mash. I wanted to reference you to. It's my new discovery at Costco. Phenomenal if you like guacamole, small containers, so you can eat small amounts rather than huge quantities that are required. And I always buy avocados and they rot before I eat them, so highly recommended. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks for joining us. You're our Patreon supporter, hence you're getting our trade blast today. I was trying to delay until we had a clear direction of the market so we can get a statement out on it based on our trade blast, but we've gotten no clear direction at all, as you've seen. So I decided to go ahead and do the show anyway. What we're expecting today is that the stock should be up in the 10 to 30 point range. One, Elon actually made negative comments, despite the fact that there's a lot of positive that's lurking in the earnings report, with a huge bombshell kind of that hit about 15 hours ago it's ever been. And if you add to that a better than expected earnings number, there is a little fly in the ointment in figuring out this whole accounting issue relative to accounts receivables. But there's a lot of good news to celebrate for Tesla, and hence we thought the institutions would really step in strong and buy the stock. I had a conversation with one of our viewers yesterday, and he was pointing out that, well, I know you're going to bring up the 3-day rule because you sort of taught us that, and it's actually worked out a lot. And I have to admit that even if I might be wrong today based on what the stock does, even though the 3-day rule is kicking in, I'm going to stick with my guns and say this is a good stock with a good story, with good numbers to show, despite a bad economic situation. And I'm going to stick with my theory that I think a lot of the institutions will decide to start buying as a way to fill their portfolio with something that's growing nicely despite the tough economy. Now, I have to say that there's a need to poke some holes in the argument that, this in fact is their heaviest backlog. And the reason is that they got 600,000 Cybertrucks on order. And those things ain't going to show up next year. I'm thinking the year after, probably, if then. And so what that means is you've got a bunch of $100 deposits sitting on the balance sheet, but it's clogging up potential sales for other vehicles that might have been sold that are currently on the ground. So I'm hopeful that the company sort of gets real with this thing so that we can not jam other sales of the company based on what we're seeing currently. So I wanted to, so kudos to the CFO for bringing this up. It would have been nice if he actually told us which vehicles are in heavy demand right now versus, a generalist comment that he gave us. But this beats nothing, which is what we've had in the past. And I think one of the volatility elements of Tesla's stock price right now is the fact that the auto industry is in very bad shape, potentially having to discount and dispose of a lot of vehicles right now in order to get rid of the 2020s heading into the 2021 production start in 2 or 3 weeks. So as a result, I just wanted to note that I think that it's amazing to see Tesla able to raise prices while everybody else is discounting to get rid of inventory. And I think that really shows strong demand for their products among a lot of folks, both around the world, but especially here and in China. But Europe has demand, but they're having some job loss issues as well that's affecting their demand also. We're doing some research on a story. There's a sidebar note that I read something in Norway that said that the e-trons were outselling Tesla there. And I decided to sort of start the research process. And I was amazed. If you look it up, Norway e-tron, you'll notice that there's not just the SUV, but they have at least one, if not two, 4-door sedans at different price points with the e-tron electric vehicle in it. So I could see how they could outsell because they have a range of what look like pretty good quality vehicles really just Audis pull out the engine and stick in batteries and motors, but it's a good looking car, and it seems to be doing well in Norway. So that might be something to note in terms of process that's being used by the folks at VW Audi. The rest of my trade blast is kind of just focused on the fact that if you own Tesla stock, as you know, it has a 50 to 100 point per day movement pattern. So if you're holding on to a lot of shares, we're in a dicey period right now for both the market and Tesla, and having a few puts in there is not a bad idea to hedge away some of the potential losses you might have experienced on your portfolio as the stock kind of gyrates right now. Today, it kind of started up at 715-ish, then it sort of dropped back down. A couple of analysts downgraded the stock, and then the stock ended up in the 680s, and now it's sort of in the 695s. So it's really moving around a lot with no clear direction. So it makes it harder to invest/trade in it because you don't know what the themes are in the short and medium term that might be coming out. There are a few clues that suggest that Tesla's production may start back up on the 18th. If so, I expect a nice move of the stock, reflecting the ability to add earnings and revenue that we would not have seen if they didn't start until the beginning of June. So let's keep our fingers crossed that we're going to see this transition, and therefore we end up with some really nice results that come from that. Beyond that, I'd have to say that I just think that right now is a great time to pick up Tesla. And even though I'm being proven wrong this morning so far, I do think that, if the market does not crash on us, we get a nice move by Tesla to the upside. One other note here is that Elon held his boast and actually put his house or houses on the market in Los Angeles. And so, he's indicated that he's sort of getting rid of stuff. And I think it's unfortunate to see kind of what's going on, and we wish him the best as he kind of works out some of the issues he's having. There were a lot of people talking about trying to sue him because of the amount of money they lost, particularly on options heading into Friday because of Tesla's comments. Good idea. The only problem that pops up with that idea is just the fact that right now, the way the SEC works is if you pump your stock up and then sell the stock you own, that gets you in trouble. If you say your stock price is a little bit too high, there's no real punishment for that one. So it's kind of hard to see him being any kind of punished by the SEC anyway for that. But it could be an issue when it comes to the company. I'm reminded a little bit in terms of punishing Tesla by the company by how they used to do things in the olden days in England in particular. What would happen is that you would have a king and he'd have a playmate. And so you couldn't like whip or torture or whatever the king or the king to be, but you could torture his friend as a way to sort of make the future king feel bad because his friend might be in pain. And so I kind of bring this up because, if you look at how Elon Musk was handled by NASA when he was smoking weed on the Joe Rogan show, NASA thought about how to respond to it and admitted, internally that they really needed the help provided by SpaceX. So instead of the punishment being just put on Elon, they spent $5 million to help put a training program on to make sure all Tesla employees know that their security clearances could be negatively impacted by their decision to smoke weed or other drugs. And so this kind of feels like what I was talking with you about before of, aristocracy. You're punishing the people or giving training to the people who already know about non-using drugs instead of Elon getting the $5.4 million worth of training so he knows what the deal is. So I thought that was an interesting move, but consistent with process of how things are done in other places as well. At any rate, today's Day is not really looking clear. I'm sticking by my 3-day rule that would start to roll out today and tomorrow. It might be slowed down by research related to what Mr. Einhorn pointed out about accounts receivables issues slash income statement issues for Tesla. And we'll see how this plays out from the analysts doing their reports and presenting an answer to this. At any rate, thanks for joining us for our Trade Blast today. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Don't forget 25 leg lifts per leg, prevent knee issues. I'm about to do mine. Also encourage you to not eat fried foods more than once a week. Highly recommend the avocado mash that's organic. I only found it so far at Costco, but I'm sure it's at other places. But it is terrific, and it feels good to taste something that I like to eat. And I don't have to waste a bunch of stuff that's overripe and I had to throw away. So I'm really excited about this product to blend into salads, etc. Again, thanks once again for joining us. Tschüss, mach's gut, au revoir, lehitraot, choda hafez, zdravstvuyte, ni hao ma, hej do, and do widzenia. And in Jamaica we say enough respect, walk good man. Have a great day and bye for now.